They talked about the evolution of games and the platforms, you know, with like the iOS systems and how you could play a video game wherever you want. And they were also talking about how the non-linear narrative of video games is a huge artistic challenge. And I could imagine, I mean, could you imagine having to create, especially because BioWare's games are highly they have a lot of cinematics, and that's one of the things that I love about their games, is that they have cinematics and they make it even more dramatic. But that's what they were saying, is that that's why it's so hard, that it's an artistic challenge for them, because they have to create these cinematics but also have in mind that what the player chose. Like, they can't just make a cinematic and that's it, because it might not fit with a certain player's choice, because they have a good amount of choices of how the game will go. And they were saying that maybe we'll create this content that's awesome, that's great, but a lot of people won't experience it because they didn't make a choice, or they didn't make that certain choice to spark that cinematic or to spark that certain situation. So they said a lot of times video games, their video games will have great pieces of cinematics just hidden in the game until the person explores every situation possible. But they said that that was the joy of discovery when it came to their games, and that also gives them their games a huge playability to go back and replay the game. They also talk about the feedback and the passion of the fans, and how that makes them. It really inspires them to do better, and it really sparks their imagination. And they really, BioWare, they really listen to their fans. I know sometimes they even said, they're like, we can't do everything that the fans want, because he was like, sometimes things are pretty crazy that they want, but they were like, we try to take as much feedback as we could. They said that the video games are a form of art that hasn't been truly contemplated for the past 20 to 30 years, and they were saying how they found that kind of sad. And someone asked them, why is it so important to defend this debate? Like, why is it so important to say that video games are an art form? And that's what I wanted to mention too. There's really, they said that the reason they do it is because they believe that it deserves it. That video games deserve the attention. They deserve, because they were talking about how you go to a newsstand or you go to a certain place and you find books and books of movies, or critiques, movie critiques and book critiques, but you don't see that many video game critiques. Like, you'll have like a book with that, like a little tiny section on video games. They said that video games deserve more attention. They deserve more critiques, and because people really could learn a lot from it. Like, the tech world could learn a lot from video games. If video games became a little more mainstream, I don't know, I guess there's that familiarity with gamers, where we're kind of more of a community, that if it was mainstream, we might lose that a little bit, and developers would have to appeal to larger audiences, and that's not always the best idea. So I don't know if I agree with it becoming more mainstream. I would love to see more like video game critiques and stuff like that, and not just for the nerd community. I mean, go on the internet and you could find a bunch of them. I think a lot of people, just people that don't know about video games, should be informed, or at least know a little bit about it. In my opinion, one of the reasons why video games do so well is because of the wide range that they have. I mean, it's hard to find a gamer that enjoys every type of game. There's always your little groups. There's your RPGers, there's your shooters, there's your first-person shooters, there's your strategy gamers. There's, you know, there's groups. Like, there's your storytellers, the ones that look more into the story and the characters. There's your hack and slashers. You know, there's different types, and there's video games for everybody, and that's why I think there should be more respect out there, and not just like, oh, you like this game? That's stupid. You know, it doesn't matter. Like, there's different gamers. We're not all the same. If you like hack and slashers, good for you. Okay, I'm not gonna say that game's horrible. I might not like it, but you like it for a certain reason. So I think there's a lack in the video game community and outside. There's a lack of respect. Respect among gamers and respect among the non-gamers. Let's continue. Another change of scenery. You guys are just getting the tour of the house. My mom changed areas, so now she's asleep over there. So now I have to come over here. I still have to be kind of quiet though. They were also talking about how some people think that a game loses its artistic touch if it becomes more like a simulation. And I don't mean like simulator games. I mean even BioWare's games could be a simulation because they're tapping into real life situations, or at least situations that could occur in real life, opposed to something like a video game like, say, Mario. But they were saying how this is not true because, or at least they don't think it's true because it's just a different way of tapping into one's imagination. It's more engaging, and suddenly a game that used to only take you halfway and the player had to imagine the rest, games now immerse you into a storyline and allow you to feel and react in that environment as if you were actually living it. These aren't actual words that they used, by the way. This is just my paraphrasing. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Video games is a very relative type of medium, and by that I mean that it depends on the person. It's very subjective, and I mean, someone could consider Mario an art form because it's very old school and it's true to the old school gaming and, you know, all that. But another person could consider games that are more advanced, like say Mass Effect, like saying no, that's more of an art form, not your old school games, because they hadn't evolved into something so big where it actually engages you emotionally, and it makes you have to decide and not just having to follow a repetitive type of routine thing, and more based on your reflexes and all that. Now, I'm not saying this is what I believe. This is just an example. So it's all subjective. If you're wondering what I believe, I really consider different video games, to be different types of art form. Like, I think Mario is a type of art form. There's a few video games that I don't consider art, just because they don't really tap into emotions. It's more like out of competitiveness. So yeah, I don't know. It's something to really think about, and I haven't thought about it very much. But Jesus Christ. Now let me talk a little bit about the Q&A session that they had. This was very interesting too. Someone asked something along the lines of, which games are art is entirely subjective. This is exactly what I was talking about. That video games are subjective, and what do they base it off of? Is it the music? Is it the graphics? Is it the gameplay, the story, the environment? All of this? What is it? And they said that it was pretty much subjective. It depends on the person. And that's why it should be considered an art form, because there's so many types of games that the same with drawn art, with like paintings and stuff like that. There's different types of art forms, different types of music. It's all relative to the person. It's all subjective, and that's what makes them all unique and worthy of appreciation. I mean, all of them, of course, some of them, I won't go into which ones, but some of them more than others. And someone asked what I was talking about, why support the debate. They basically answered, because art is relevant, whether you appreciate it or not. No matter what form of art it is, it will spark an emotion, some way or another, from a person. Video games is a new form of artistic expression. Why not support or accept that? It can convey history, transmit feeling, engage the imagination, inspire, give people an entertaining pastime. I mean, it does everything that every other art form does. So why not accept it, or why not respect it as that? More, this is what they were talking about. I'm more. It's not that I fight for it. What I don't understand is, why don't people at least respect it? I mean, people criticize it all the time, and that just bothers me. I mean, if you don't want to consider it art, that's completely fine. Nobody, or at least I'm not here to fight with you and say, it is, you're wrong. I'm just saying that people should really respect these types of creations, because people actually put a lot of time and effort to make these things. And how could you not respect, or at least appreciate, what they're doing? And they're doing this all for us. They're not doing it for, I mean, they're doing it for money too, but they really want to appeal to the audience, or to their fans. At least BioWare is very big on that. Someone also asked, this I found really interesting. How does the transition between mediums work? Like for example, games to movies. And this goes into the Mass Effect movie. They pretty much said that the key is finding creators that respect the content and the fan following. It works both ways. For example, Knights of the Old Republic or Star Wars The Old Republic, they're taking it from Star Wars. If you don't respect or understand the IP, the outcome will reflect that. They said that BioWare had taken a long time to find partners that do that, and they've been lucky so far. They're probably talking about Legendary, because they didn't mention the Mass Effect movie. They just said the Mass Effect, for example, the Mass Effect movie. This is something that kind of provides some comfort, because they were saying that they found partners that have played the games, understand them, and respect the established content. It's a different process. It's hard for a filmmaker to create a game that works, and vice versa. It's hard for a gamer or a gaming developer to create a movie without an expert on the other medium. So they have to work with experts on the other medium, but there has to be a mutual respect and understanding between them two, so that they could actually make something that really works and that is worthy of that title. They also talked about the abuse of remakes. Someone said, is this good or bad? BioWare said that it depends on the intention of the remake. Charlie is bored. When he's bored, he just goes in and out doors. You know how he loves to open doors? So, they said that it depends on their intention, on the intention of the remake, and the mindset of the people remaking it. So, if it's just to go in to mine a title, like just to get profit of it, because it's a popular title, that they don't agree with, and they don't think that it works. But if the intention, it comes from someone or developers that respect the game, appreciate it, and only want to add to it, it all comes down to respect. It would be amazing to see a Final Fantasy VII remake with today's technology. That's what one of them said. And he says that some may disagree, but if the right intention is there, it at least will only be honoring the game and not ruining what it's already established.